Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Hidden Mysteries. I'm Mimi, one of your co-hosts for this evening, and joining me is Reverend Maria DeAndrea. Hi, Maria. How you doing?
Fine. I'm so happy that we're co-hosting this show. I'm excited.
Well, let me just give a few messages before we begin. I'm just letting everyone know that this is June 4th, 2014, and we're coming to you from New York. And if you've ever wondered whether there was more to our reality than what we see, then you're in the right place. On each show, Maria and I will be exploring a myriad of unusual topics and endeavor to seek out answers to mysterious concepts and age-old legends that may still haunt us all. So just to give you a little background on who we are, Reverend Maria is an internationally known psychic from Budapest, Hungary, and a European shaman. And she's also a published author, spiritual life coach, metaphysical practitioner, public speaker, lecturer, and on and on. And you can check out Maria's website at mariadeandrea.com. And there should be also a link right below our Blog Talk show description of Maria's website. And also there's a link also to Maria's books on Amazon.com, so you can check that out when you have the time. And if you want to get in touch with Maria to speak to her specifically, right after the show at your earliest convenience, you can call her at 631-559-1248. And just to let you know about a little bit about me, I have personally researched a lot of topics under paranormal spirituality for many years. I used to produce a local cable show for 14 years on this very subject called Alexander's Psychic Eye on local TV. And I've had quite a number of unusual psychic occurrences throughout my life. So, there's stuff to always be talked about, on this subject. So, Maria, before we start with our topic for this evening, I wanted to ask you just a brief question about your background a little. In case people don't know what a shaman is, could you explain what that is and whether, do you come from a long line of shamans? Does it get handed down from generation to generation, or, what's it all about?
Oh, of course. And by the way, I just want to really very quickly say, in case the public doesn't know, that you were my producer when I was doing a TV show for a couple of years on the Spiritual World with Maria, and I always felt so blessed because you are so phenomenal as a producer. I just put that in.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, I know you won't say that, but I can. So basically, I'm a European shaman, as well as being connected to the Tuscarora tribe. So a shaman in all cultures really means that we are dedicated and capable of many psychic, metaphysical, and healing abilities. So some other abilities include being a spiritual leader, because, I'm an interfaith minister, counselor, teacher, village wise person, decision maker, and protector for the community. Used to be the tribe, the community. And we have advanced knowledge from the etheric or the interdimensional planes. So we do interdimensional work, we do dream interpretations, we do astral travel, and that's just really to name a few of the disciplines. So we are also considered magi, by the way. So you become a shaman through study, from a shaman. So it's information that's hidden and passed down for generations, basically through rituals and, shaman to shaman. And basically,
so let
some
me,
are born with
ask
these abilities.
Maria, just as a side note, you said that you were also magi. I mean, shaman is also a magi. So the magi who came to, in the Bible, went to, to Christ to give him, little gifts, when he was born. They were obviously of a shaman type of, lineage as well.
Oh, yes, because basically a magi is pretty much the same as working as a shaman, because it means you understand the laws of nature to work with nature to create positive things.
Right.
So it's really working with nature.
Yeah, which would explain the fact that they know where he was.
Right.
And how to trace him. Like I said, I see by the stars that he's going to be over there.
Right.
Okay, So,
and actually, what people don't realize, Oh, it's a lot of times when you become a shaman, as much as, like I said, it's training, a lot of times people are just born with these abilities and knowledge from a past incarnation.
Right.
So sometimes you just come in with that, you know. Now in my family, my father was psychic, and then on my mother's side, both my grandparents and my grandfather actually did automatic writing and a lot of trance work. And then both my sons, Vic and Rob, are psychic. And it's funny because we also have many people that are inventors, ministers, and teachers, among other fields in my family, but most of them really were psychic.
Wow. That's interesting.
But I also feel like, I also feel you're intuitive. I really feel everybody has that ability. It's a matter of technique and knowledge and working with it, because you're very sensitive yourself.
Yeah, oh, yeah. The past few days I've been picking up on something. I don't know what it is, but I'm telling you. And when it hits the fan, I'm going to be ducking. I don't know what it is, but the subject we're going to be speaking about tonight is on talismans and amulets, and it's fascinating to me because anything of a historical nature has always been fascinating to me, and I know it goes back to centuries of people using talismans and amulets, and it brings to mind like images of witchcraft and ancient rituals. So let's start off explaining what the difference is between a talisman and an amulet, because they're two different things.
First of all, really, I think that's a really good idea because most people think they're the same. However, an amulet is only used for protection, absolutely nothing else. Whereas a talisman is an object that brings changes into your life. It can also be used for protection, by the way. So a talisman is an amplifier of the universal life force. So as an amplifier, a talisman brings you the ability to join with the power or the energy of the universal life force and the life force of this planet, actually. So this power and energy serves to multiply your own individual efforts. So as an example, the amulets or the talisman really must be charged or consecrated to actually work as opposed to being jewelry, which we were speaking about earlier. And when dealing with talisman, they can be used in both positive and negative ways. Now, you and I only do positive work, but that's our choice because we only practice on the positive side. So if you buy one and you don't know the intent of the person that you bought it from, you really need to make sure that it's coming from the proper place or the proper intent. So you need to know the intent of the person behind it and the words of power used over them, because really, without the strong intent and the willpower, it won't work anyway, but you need to know what side they work on. Because as you and I were saying earlier, if they're saying that they work positive and negative, basically they're negative.
Well, one of the key aspects of this is the fact that you really need to use your intuitive senses to really, when you're choosing an item, you have to get a feel and open yourself up to it to see if that's the right energy for you. So that sort of goes hand in hand in this aspect of getting an amulet or getting a talisman. So that seems like you have to use your psychic abilities to really choose the proper tools for yourself,
I think so, too, because I think everybody has that first gut feeling of something, if it feels right, if it doesn't feel right. Even if you're in the store, if it doesn't feel right, leave it alone. Or the other way around, of course.
Well, what was I going to say? You said something in which, you said something about consecration. In terms of charging the items, what would be the best way of charging them and putting in your good energy, positive energy into it, so that it brings you back the best situations?
Okay. Well, first of all, to charge them, one method, because there are always several, is basically to hold the object over a candle flame and use words of power over it. So as an example, another way that might work for people that are newer at it is you pull in power first and then speak the word. And one of it is it's done verbally, by the way, because of the vibration of the words to give it strength. So you really need to know what you're doing, basically. So you have to have a strong intent because you don't want to accidentally make a mistake. It just won't work. So when you're holding the object over the flame, you need to focus and have a very, very strong intent for it to work. Now, some people use oil to consecrate, such as olive oil, by the way, is very frequently used. So when you focus on it, on your intent, you need to place the oil all along the edges of the object. Also, you need to make sure you don't disconnect in the middle of the ritual. Otherwise, you really have to just start over again. It's not going to do anything negative, but you want to make sure you're starting over.
You know what that reminds me of? Like in ancient Egypt, when they were doing the burial rituals, they had to start from the beginning to the end, and if they got interrupted, they had to start all over again. So they had to have that continuous energy flowing from the beginning to the end in order to, as far as they saw it, to get it right, to make sure that they actually found their way over to the other side, So it's pretty much the same idea,
Sure, you don't want to break the flow. Now, there's another way. It's called palming, and it's a way of energizing the object by holding the item between your two hands, and then you're energizing the object with your intent, where it's flowing through your hand into the object. Also, you don't want other people touching the items that you've charged because you don't know if they're negative or they're accidentally being jealous and sending you negative energy, inadvertently. And some people have the ability and focus to consecrate the object to activate it. Some don't. Just like some people are artists, I'm not one of them. So you really need a shaman to heighten the energy because you need to know the right words, and how to arrange them, and you need to use the right technique. Because basically you're magnetizing it specifically to you.
Right. Now, also, for people who, I know we've spoken about this before. People don't realize that it's not that you need it, like a talisman or amulet. It's just that people sometimes use it for focusing aspects, But we do use our minds have power in itself, and our thoughts can create, things to draw to us or to protect ourselves. So, so that people, I just want people to realize that this is mainly as a focusing measure, and that they have the ability within themselves to be able to create what they want as well. They don't have to. I mean, they're beautiful. I mean, I love some of these, talismans, but it still comes from within. So, it's something that I think it's important that people understand. It's that they have that ability. They can use certain tools and their own intentions also to help themselves. To draw what they want in life, to protect themselves with certain things. So I wanted to bring that up to you as far as what your perspective of that is.
No, I agree with you because I really feel most people either they don't have the knowledge or the power. They really don't have the true techniques. Now, that's something that everybody can actually learn. So it's basically focusing willpower and control of what they're focusing on. However, a lot of times for them to do so, some people are interested in learning to do it for themselves. Some people just plain don't have the interest. It's not lack of ability. In which case, a lot of people would go to us for us to do the talisman or to do the focus or to consecrate it for them or to magnetize it. But I really believe everybody has the ability. Like I said, I deal with a lot of people where I make the talisman and the amulets for them. And I always offer that I could teach them how to do it for themselves. And a lot of times they really just don't want to be bothered, which is fine. Some people want to learn, in which case they'll learn the technique and then they can do that permanently.
Right.
So it just depends on the preference. But as you said, everybody truly has the ability.
Right. Now, as far as the history of talismans and amulets, I mean, it must go back. I mean, I would think like at any point that where we've had a civilization, there's been that type of those types of tools, in our civilization. I mean, I guess maybe it's the feeling of not having control, perhaps, in certain situations. Society doesn't feel like they have control, so they have to have an object that helps them feel in control. Would you say that's the reason why these have sustained for so many centuries?
Yeah, I really agree with you. But also what happens is when you're using talisman, they attract without you actually having to think about it, especially if you're working on so many different things nowadays. We have so much going on and so many things we're stressed about that the talisman will work for us without consciously planning or working with it every 2 seconds. So basically the ancient talisman have really never changed, and we always use them. So if you have a piece of jewelry, for instance, that represents something to you, like the cross, or, perhaps something you got from your mother as a present or your grandmother, that has impact for you. So you can always charge or consecrate that. So as an example, when I make talisman and amulets, I'm always very specific to each individual. So when they call me to order one, as an example, I always ask a lot of questions. And I'm always explaining. I'm not trying to be nosy. But if I don't know exactly what they want, because some people sometimes, they have, as an example, they may be focused on, they want a relationship. Okay, so to attract that, you have to really know what do they actually need in a relationship. It doesn't mean that they're aware of what they need, But as an example, if in a relationship you need somebody that communicates with you, and that's not what you're attracting, the relationship won't work, or whatever else you need.
Well, they also might be
very specific.
Be also attracting their worst fears. So.
Oh no, that's true. I always laugh because when you see the cartoons in the magazines where they always have this little old lady looking under the bed. I always feel eventually she's going to find the guy because she's focused on it.
Oh, that's funny. I'll start looking under the bed too.
Yeah, right.
So have there been any type of specific talisman or amulet that's really been, that's been like around for a long time that people have used over and over, that for some reason, like every civilization seems to use that for some specific reason? Have you ever come across one that seems to go, from period to period, gets handed down, and it's around all the time? I mean,
oh sure. Well, some of the, actually, really, a lot of what we do is still underground, even though society is open to us. Society goes up and down, and some of it really is ancient and hidden knowledge. However, some objects that are out in the public now have been around for centuries, such as the triskelion. So if you look at that as a symbol, sometimes it looks like it has 3 legs. So think of it as inside a circle, and it looks like it literally either has 3 legs, where it looks like one, as an example, is, say, forming a triangle. Okay, so one as an example would be up more, and then the other 2 would be at different angles to kind of look like a triangle. But it looks like either 3 legs that are in motion, or sometimes it looks like 3 designs together that looks like they're in motion. So with the triskelion, and again, you can just hold it in your hand if you buy that, and most stores will have it. If you buy that, if you just hold it in your hand and you really, really focus on moving forward in a positive way, that's what it does. It brings changes and positive energy into your life to move you forward in either one specific area or in a lot of different areas, depending on what you're focused on. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's one of the main ones. And I remember you talking about the scarab.
Yes. Well,
remember you were saying about the Egyptian scarab?
Yeah, I'm very heavily into Egyptian, items. I love it. It's because I was a Egyptian in past life, so naturally I'm drawn to it. But I have I love Ankh, I love the scarab, I love all the little statuary from that time period. But as the scarab, wasn't that like for protection? Was not like a very powerful.
It was actually for a lot of things. And again, if you consecrate it, it has more power. But the symbols themselves, through centuries, generate their own energy already. Okay, you're just making it very specific for you. And with the Ankh, it was eternal life, it's luck, it's positive energy, it's protection. It's really multi-purpose.
Right.
So and it also includes healing. So if you're not sure what to focus on as a talisman, that's an excellent one. But usually we make it up specifically for the person, because depending on what you're working on at the time. And the difference is this also. If we're making a talisman or consecrating it for somebody, because, we work with scientists. It's actually been proven that when we consecrate a talisman or an amulet, it literally works for 99 years on a vibrational level. So for it not to work, you'd actually have to bury it. So as an example, if you're using it, and as an example, you decide that whatever the work is that you were working on is done, you'd have to bury it. Otherwise, if it's for something like the Triskelion for luck and moving forward, or something like the scarab, when you don't need it, you can just put it away and then reuse it for the next couple of years on and off. So it's totally non-limited.
And the best way I would think of putting, your talismans and amulets away would probably be, I know sometimes people use these little silken bags. It has to be some sort of a material that sort of keeps it protected and doesn't allow any type of vibrations to contaminate it or something like that.
Well, actually, the best one is when you're working with it. You can work it with it's being on a necklace, as a chain. It can be in your pocket, in your wallet. It can be carried in different ways, in which case the pouch is absolutely great for it, or you can wrap it up in a handkerchief, any material that breathes. But when you're putting it away, which is different, where you're not using it, the best way to do it is to slow down the energy. So as an example, if you put it in nowadays, the Ziploc bags, because they're plastic,
the contemporary world.
It's actually funny. Exactly, because we update. So if you put it in that, it won't cancel the energy, but will tone it down. So it's actually funny. Or anything along that line where you can wrap it up.
Well, you think about it, it's plastic. Now, what type of vibrational system are we talking about? Yeah, exactly. So,
or even if you have like a little plastic box, you're back to man-made items.
Hello?
And again, it won't change the vibration or cancel it. It'll just tone it down. At the time that you're not using it. Otherwise, like a little pouch or anything would work wonderfully. Or just, you can throw it in your wallet, depending on what it is, of course.
Right. Mm-hmm. Let's see. There were some things I wanted to ask you. Let's see. We had covered about people, have always been known to be superstitious, because that's the reason why a lot of these objects have been used over the centuries. Can some of the like the lucky rabbit, the rabbit's foot? Of course, they say how lucky can it be, because after all it was on the rabbit and now he doesn't have it anymore. So what about? I mean, how lucky can or how powerful can some of these objects be that were based on superstitious type of ideas, like that, for instance, the rabbit foot. Let's take the rabbit foot for an example. I mean, where does that, was that considered? That was considered a talisman of some sort.
Actually,
and when did that come
really
into?
Was.
And when did that come into play?
Actually, that's been around for a really, really long time. And it's actually funny when you look at the rabbit's foot as a talisman, because it's supposed to bring you luck. It actually comes in different colors. If you go somewhere that's a New Age store, a Botanica, a metaphysical store, they actually come in different colors. So each color represents a different situation. So as an example, green attracts money more. Okay, pink attracts universal love. Orange attracts, actually it's funny, orange attracts energy, high energy, you being more active. It actually kicks in sexual energy. I always laugh because we're working from spirit but out of the physical body. You need food, balance,
Yeah, it all comes
with things. Right?
Yeah, you need all that stuff.
So it's really, exactly. So it's really funny. And, you have different ones that attract healing energy. Now, what happens is, if you consecrate it, obviously it works much better. But sometimes what happens with some of the talisman is through centuries, there's been so much energy put into it by different people's belief system that now it becomes a focus of power or a cone of power. So as an example, in ancient times, think of it like this. In ancient times, as an example, say there was, at the time of the caveman, say there was a tribe where they were living near the ocean, and there was this gigantic wall, and there was a tidal wave. Now, they couldn't come to the caves, and they didn't, the tribe, because of the tidal, when the tidal wall hit, it hit the wall in the cave, before the cave, right? So now, the tidal wave comes, it dissipates because of the wall, it doesn't affect the tribe. Now the tribe is going to go, now it's a deity protecting them. They're looking at the wall and they're saying, it protected us, it helped us. So through time, they start worshiping it. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what happens is now the more they worship it, the more energy goes into this wall as a protective energy. And through generations of people worshiping it, what happens is they actually build, through a thought form, a deity or an entity that represents and is connected to the wall. So when they're in trouble, now they can actually call on the deity that they formed, not consciously, but that they formed, and when they call it in, it actually will be specific to protection. So down the line, if somebody intuitive or psychic walks by, they might actually see the deity or have a sense of feeling of being protected without knowing why. And it's funny because sometimes as things, as information gets passed down through generations, they may have absolutely no clue why they're worshiping this or where it originated from.
Right,
but now the energy is in place. So, with the talisman, if you took a little piece of that wall, that it's going to protect you no matter what, because of, centuries as an example of people worshiping it for that specific purpose. All that intent and focus was going into the wall.
Wow, very fascinating.
Yeah. And that was with all cultures.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd want to say in regards to, this topic?
Okay, well, I did want to mention that all talisman and amulets really work on vibrations and energy, and everything in the universe is made of energy. So when you, for lack of a better word, what we use is the word fix. So when you fix an object, basically you're creating or magnetizing a field to attract or to repel what the person wants. So I do feel everybody has the ability to do this. It's a matter of learning the technique and choosing to have that ability. Otherwise, they can always find somebody in our field.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And just using the proper intent, the proper thought behind it, and and that's the main key of the whole thing.
And the other thing that I wanted to mention that, you and I have talked for a really long time because we've worked together for a long time. You and I truly believe in karma. What you put out comes back. So I always want to warn people that anything that they're doing, they always want to work only on the positive side, because whatever they're doing, it's going to come back. So you don't do any negative control, because even if you attract, say, a relationship, if you attract the person in through negative methods, down the line what's going to happen is even if they come in, it's going to turn negative. Either the person will leave, they might turn negative towards them. I've had situations where somebody was negative and their partner turned physically violent. So we're very careful that we only do positive work, which you and I have always agreed on, which is why we get along.
Well, we're coming down to our last minute, so I just wanted to go to the closing. And what did you had like a little parting thing that you wanted to say, right?
Yes, I just want to say to everybody that until the next time and always, may God bless you abundantly. And thank you for being on the show and listening.
Okay, and thank you for all, joining us this evening on Hidden Mysteries. And be sure to mark us as your favorite in order to receive notifications of upcoming shows. And visit us on facebook.com/mquestmedia. There's a link on our Blog Talk site where you can send either comments or suggestions for upcoming shows. And let us know what questions you may have on today's topic, or maybe suggestions on other topics, or perhaps experiences of your own. You can get in touch with Reverend Maria at mariadeandrea.com, or call her at 631-559-1248. So have a nice night, and thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Hidden Mysteries.